Again, the theme is people are losing their minds. And one of those people that has lost his damn mind is Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is out there right now in Israel doing the most. Just doing the most. And it is possible that he will have the ability to do the most to us here. Check this out, fam. Shout out to The Intercept for this article here. There is a new bill that would give Marco Rubio thought police power to revoke U.S. passports. Rubio has already sought to punish immigrants for speech. Now, new legislation might let him do it for U.S. citizens. What I tell you. Here we go. Marco Rubio stripped Turkish doctoral student Remisa Öztürk of her visa based on what a court later found was nothing more than her opinion piece critical of Israel. But now, a bill introduced by the chair of the House of Foreign Affairs Committee is ringing alarm bells for civil liberties advocates who say it would grant Rubio the power to revoke the passports of American citizens on similar grounds. Does everybody see what's happening now? First of all, taking away your passport because you criticize Israel, like this is authoritarian. For you to tell people, well, they can't leave the country because they're criticizing Israel. Like, is this the United States of America or is this Israel? It's absolutely insane. It goes on to say here, this provision is sponsored by Representative Brian Mast, that crazy guy. He's a Republican from Florida, as part of a larger State Department reorganization, and it is set for a hearing on Wednesday. Now, his legislation says that it takes aim at terrorists and traffickers, but critics say it could be used to deny American citizens the right to travel based solely on their speech. The State Department said it doesn't comment on pending legislation. Of course. Seth Stern, the director of advocacy at Freedom of Press Foundation, said the bill would open the door to thought policing at the hands of one individual. Marco Rubio has claimed the power to designate people terrorist supporters based solely on what they think and say, even if what they say doesn't include a word about a terrorist organization or terrorism. So this is where we're headed, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the thing I said before about the free speech. This is why I say, like, I support free speech. I support speech that I do not agree with. I support speech that I find to be problematic. And this is one of the reasons why. I'm seeing a lot of people right now, kind of, they said they were pro free speech, but the moment they see speech that they disagree with, they want to shut down. They want people imprisoned because of it. And it's very dangerous, folks. Marco Rubio, don't forget how he went after certain students for writing an op-ed about Israel. Marco Rubio fights more for Israel than he does for the United States, than he does for the American people. And the sad part about it is, Marco Rubio may not have that position if it wasn't for the support that he also got from Democrats. Don't forget, Bernie Sanders is criticizing Marco Rubio, and he should, but he voted for him. You got to remember these things. We all knew what Marco Rubio wanted. He was very vocal about what he wanted to do. Vague terrorist designations. Mast, for his part, has publicly voiced his support for kicking terrorist sympathizers out of our country. At the time, he was talking about deporting Mahmoud Khalil. You guys remember Mahmoud Khalil? He was the green card holder at that time. This new bill claims to target a narrow set of people. One section grants the Secretary of State the power to revoke or refuse to issue passports for people who have been convicted or merely charged of material support for terrorism. Kia, a senior policy counsel at the American Civil Liberties Union, said that language would accomplish little in practice since terror convictions come with stiff prison sentences and pretrial defendants are typically denied bail. The other section sidesteps the legal process entirely. Rather, the Secretary of State would be able to deny passports to people whom they determine has knowingly aided, assisted, abetted, or otherwise provided material support to an organization the Secretary has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Let's highlight this part here. Aided, assisted, abetted, provided. Pull this up. Knowingly aided, assisted, abetted, or otherwise provided material support to an organization. They are a little vague with this, and that's intentional, right? Because they have been saying that the pro-Palestinian protesters are supporting a terrorist organization. When the pro-Palestinian protesters are calling for a free Palestine, they're calling for a ceasefire, they're calling for an end to the genocide. Now, the US government has deemed Hamas to be a terrorist organization. But under international law says that people who are occupied have the right to resist with armed force. The point that I'm trying to make is this, folks. If they have a loose definition of what they deem to be terrorism, we all know this bill is really about Israel, then that means that they could also target people who participate in the protest. Aided, assisted, abetted, or provided material support to said organization. Let's continue on here. The reference to material support disturbed advocates who have long warned the government that the government can misuse statutes criminalizing material support for terrorists first passed after the 1996 Oklahoma City federal building bombing and toughened after the September 11 attacks to punish speech. Some of those fears have been borne out. The Supreme Court ruled in 2010 that even offering advice about international law to designated terror groups could be classified as material support. So do you see how they're expanding it? Now it's even offering advice about international law. The government even deemed a woman who was kidnapped and forced to cook and clean for Salvadorian guerrillas a material supporter of terrorism. Since September 11, pro-Israel lawmakers and activists have ratcheted up attempts to expand the scope and the use of anti-terror laws. This is intentional. The ADL goes on to say here in a letter last year that the Students for Justice in Palestine was providing material support. Do you see what they're doing here? So this, ladies and gentlemen, pay very close attention. I know right now the Charlie Kirk death is taking a lot of news, and that's in the forefront. A lot of people are focusing on that. But at the time that that's happening, they're trying to sneak these pieces of legislation through. This is what they try to do. It's like when we're focused on one thing, they're trying to pass legislation that could greatly impact our lives, but we're not focused on it. So we got to keep an eye on this one. Marco Rubio right now is kissing the wall. You see? So here is Marco Rubio right next to who I actually consider the real president of the United States, right next to Benjamin Netanyahu. And there's Mike Huckabee, right? So does everybody see what's really going on here? Right? Okay. So let me explain something when I talk about the organizations. This is important for people to understand. Somebody already said it in the chat, and I'll bring that up in just a second. They can target any of these organizations that have supported pro-Palestine efforts. And also, I'm willing to bet this, even some of the organizations that are supporting reparations. I'll call it out right now. Here are some of the ones that I'm telling you that they may try to target. PSL, which is the Party for Socialism and Liberation. That is one that will probably be on their radar. Any of the communist organizations, so like the Communist Party for Communist Party USA, Communist Party America, that organization, they'll try to go after those. Basically, a lot of these are going to be left or left-leaning organizations. Don't be surprised if they go after DSA, although DSA is, some of them support Israel's right to, exist and defend itself, and some of them don't. But ultimately, they could be targeted as well. But I think that they would more likely go after these organizations that are a little bit more to the left of that, right? And last but not least, someone already peeped it out. Keebler. If this passes, ADOS will be declared a terrorist organization soon afterwards. This is another thing I want to give people the heads up about, right? The ADOS organization has been smeared multiple times by corporate media pundits. They have been called Russian puppets, Russian accounts. That's not true. But ADOS is American Descendants of Slavery. It's an organization that advocates for, again, the just due, the reparations that is owed to descendants of slavery. But because they have already been targeted, they have already been labeled and marked as, oh, these are Russian people, these are Putin puppets or whatever. They've been labeled as MAGA, which is not true. They're not MAGA. But they are asking for specific things for American descendants of slavery from politicians. They're asking for those things. Do not be surprised if they start to go after these groups as well. Meanwhile, you have the KKK organization in the US, which still exists. You have neo-Nazi organizations in the US, which still exist. But that's not who they're going to go after, because those two organizations that I just mentioned, the KKK, neo-Nazis, they still serve white supremacy. They're not going to go after them. But these other groups, and especially the ones in particular that are asking for something for their specific group, could be a primary target. So when you see this wall, when everybody see this, Anamali Yeshita, exactly, right, Ashura, the Uhuru movement, they've already been targeted. But don't be surprised if they say, oh, well, you are supporting that as well, right? Wu said, I've seen Black content creators call ADOS Russian, but I have too. I've seen them do that too. So do you see what's happening, folks? This is what I'm saying. They already put the narrative out there. Now you see Marco Rubio and them at this wall. These are all the playmakers here, right? So this is really who they work for. They don't work for, they supposed to be working for Trump, but Trump working for them too. This is who they answer to. This guy right here. So do you see how quickly? Oh, and by the way, when it comes to identity, when it comes to, oh, don't talk about race, don't talk about this or whatever. When it comes to ethnicity, when it comes to identity, all of that don't talk about this conversation goes out the door when that identity is Israel. So we got to stay on this, guys. We got to pay attention to what's happening, especially Marco Rubio. Mike Huckabee is a sick, psycho, sad person. But they're really like losing their minds, and they're trying to find a way as best as possible to, really get Americans, the majority of Americans, back on board with supporting Israel. So I don't put anything past them. I really don't. But pay attention to the legislation. I'm going to follow that because I'm telling you guys, they try to sneak bills in. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.